Ready?
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Playing Dirty Podcast. I'm Megan, and this is Katie.
Hey!
And happy Mother's Day to everyone. We are recording on Sunday, May 14th. Um, Today we're going to talk about something that's a little close to home for me and Katie, and I'm sure everyone in the world right now, but we will be discussing mental health, as well as giving some updates on what's happened the past week and some things to look forward to.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in again. If this is the third episode that you've listened to, if you're new here, we chat about sports and sports culture. And like Megan said, this week we're just going to be talking about mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we think it's kind of a really important topic to just discuss and talk about our own experiences, especially having been athletes. Um, Historically, it's been kind of a taboo topic for athletes to talk about openly, but it's something that's really important to us. So today we will be diving into it.
And because we are discussing mental health, if you or someone that you love is in need of help, you can call or text 988. That's 988. And for more information, you can find tools and resources on the CDC's webpage at cdc.gov/mental health.
Yeah,
All right,
great,
Katie,
great call out, Megan.
give us an update of the past week.
Okay. This is gonna be a fun episode, but just wanted to prep everyone. It's gonna be a little bit more serious at some points. So there's been a lot that's happened this past week, and actually a lot that's happened yesterday and today. Uh, so I want to just like touch on that before we really get into the meat of this episode.
My
So the
son's
first thing,
lost.
your son's lost. Yeah, son's lost. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It was disappointing.
I know, I was pulling for them too. But now the Lakers are playing the Nuggets, so
We'll have
whatever.
to transfer to be a Lakers fan, I guess, this time, Katie. For
Do
you.
it.
Only for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome to the club. It's not bandwagon. We accept everyone. Um, but there was news with the Suns that Monty Williams got fired.
Yeah, I think people in Arizona are pretty upset about it. Um, Obviously, Monty, just from a viewer's perspective, has done a really good job. And I don't know if it has to do with the new ownership of the team, kind of a turnover in culture, perhaps, but I'm really sad to see him go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. And I mean, granted I get it. Like he didn't win, but I read this stat that in the past 3 years he's been the most winningest coach, especially
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know if there's no credit given to that, but with the new owner, it sounded like he just kind of wanted to get a fresh face for the team. But really kind of a bummer because I admire him as a coach.
Me too, and I hope he gets picked up somewhere else pretty fast and continues his coaching career. In other news, this is for everyone that resides with me in Tucson or went to University of Arizona. Andre Iguodala has officially retired after 19 seasons. And he's the last Lute Olson coached Wildcat to play in the NBA.
Aww.
I know. It's like if you're a UCLA fan, it's um your John Wooden is our Lute Olson.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with who Lute Olson is. Um every boy growing up in in Tucson has like a little portrait with Lute Olson from the like basketball camp when they were little. It's like classic growing up in Tucson thing.
That's cute.
So I mean, same. I hope for Iguodala the best in his retirement. Hopefully, he can kind of disconnect from the sports world for a minute and find a new passion. That's what he desires.
Oh, how cute is that? Yeah. Wow, man, that time flies. A lot of these
Yeah.
like people we grew up watching are like now just kind of retiring or leaving the league.
Yeah, it is weird to be that age where you can talk about people who you watched play when you were younger who are no longer in the NBA. And it's like I'm not old, but that's a weird thing
Right.
to think about.
It is, it is. I also feel like we're at that age too where there's people in like the NBA, MLB who are younger than us,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
it's terrifying. I mean, I'm like, "Oh my God, like we're not
What were
old,
you
but
doing when you were 17?
no, seriously, yeah, not playing a professional sport."
No, that's how I felt when I saw that stat about the women's US Open. There's like a 9-year-old that qualified. It's like, oh, what were you doing when you were 9?
I no, seriously. I kind of wish that like I got into golf. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I got into golf when I was younger. Like I played golf when I was
Mm-hmm.
little. You know, my dad would take me to the range and like I did golf camps and whatever. But I feel like if I stuck with it for like took it really seriously, I could be professional. You heard it here. I could be professional. I just don't feel like it's a very like
When
saturated women's sport, so
when I was 9, I was in my theater kid era. Um, so I was in the youth theater company doing like these massive productions of I'd say I did like Charlotte's Web. I was a mouse.
whoa.
I did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I was Lucy Pevensey. That's probably where I peaked in life.
Yeah.
I did like The Music Man. I don't know what else. What's the one with the ghost of Christmas? A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
That was I was thriving at the age of 9. Just
Wow.
not in the same way.
I didn't know you were a theater kid, Megan.
You didn't?
I knew
Katie,
you did.
I was
No,
in
I
choir. I was in the Arizona Youth Chamber Ensemble. I had a vocal coach. I wanted to be like I wanted an agent. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be on Disney Channel
wow.
so badly.
I feel like I knew that you had like done some acting, but I didn't know you were like so serious about it. What happened?
Sports. And then I
Cute.
got back into the singing in high school and then stopped again. But
You can sing? You can riff one out?
no. I
Not on the
wouldn't say
pod.
that.
Not on the pod.
It was
Maybe
more
another
like
time.
leading the Our Father at Mass at my Catholic high school, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Nice. Gotta feel good about that one. Oh man. It was always like you felt like such the main character at mass when you were like ringing the bell before the
Yeah.
communion and you know what I remember those days, man, church kid days. So
Oh yeah.
funny. So I did want to talk about something that happened I think this morning or last night. John Morant basically being caught again with a gun, and this time it was in a video and on an Instagram live video.
I thought the first time was too.
First time he was caught with a gun in a club
Oh.
in Denver. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he for some reason he brought a gun into a club in Denver and was like I don't know why. I don't know why he needed it or why anyone would need it, but then, obviously he got suspended at that point. And
He's
then
pretty
go
young,
ahead.
isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Like
he
20,
is.
23.
I'm not sure if I don't know his age, but I know he's like
But
relatively
he's
new to
so
the
he's
NBA.
basically our age though.
Yeah.
That uh, I don't really have much to say about it other than that's terrifying.
Hear me out though. Hear me out. The thing that really it is terrifying. The first time should have never happened. But what really bothers me is it happened again. Like you already got suspended and now you're getting caught on like IG live with a gun in your hand. Like you're
Yeah.
done. Like you're done. What are you doing? Like I don't know. It's really frustrating because you'd imagine like he's doing great in the NBA, like he's made a great name for himself, and now he's kind of just like trashing it away because he's like making stupid decisions, and it's kind of a bummer to see. But
Do you think that something else will happen besides a suspension?
that's a great question. I don't know the NBA's policy for this sort of thing. Like the first time was like a few games or something. And then this time it's been like I think like indefinite suspension, but I'd imagine at some point you like don't the team lets you go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, that just happened recently and I just wanted to bring it up cuz I can't believe it. He like had the guts to have a gun in his hand ever again after getting like that's your job. That's your job on the line. Like I'm not I'm not showing a gun on social media. I don't first of all I don't own a gun, but I'm not showing a gun on social media like knowing that my employer could see. Like that just I don't know. I don't know. But last big like news, like athlete news before we talk about we get into a little bit of the college sports and some mental health stuff. Jalen Hurts just got his master's degree from Oklahoma of all places, not even Alabama.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that the team that he's playing for in his contract is paying for that degree, or do you think he went and did it on his own? And I only say that because I know sometimes when people get drafted and they haven't completed their college degree, it's part of their contract that at any period of time the team will pay for them to go back and finish, which is
That's cool.
so unbelievably important.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. My answer initially would be he already has a degree from he has a bachelor's degree from Alabama. So and he's getting paid like $200 million from the Eagles. So I would say he likely just went back and finished on his own.
And what was the degree in?
Human resources.
Oh, weird.
I know. I feel like it was one of those things where he had credits like kind of lingering and he like could apply it to a master's degree and just finish it up. But
maybe he's planning a whole alternate career.
Maybe in human resources.
Why not?
Yeah. Maybe
he's just a people person.
I like him a lot. I think he's a really cool guy. I saw this YouTube video of him. I can't remember the name of the series, but basically they interview like NFL players on where they spend their money, like with their like contract and their signing bonus and whatever.
Uh-huh.
And he's from Houston. And he was so like expressed so much gratitude towards like the money he had earned and like his family and then the fun stuff that he was talking about like that made me like kind of keen on him. But yeah, I think that's really cool. Good for him, man. Like you're a big star in the NFL but you're still getting a master's degree. That's cool.
That is awesome. All right, big news for us.
Yeah.
UCLA has won its next national championship.
Woo! Yeah, Bruins.
The men's volleyball team won. They beat Hawaii. And I think it's our 121st. Could be wrong. Could need to fact check that later. 120 something national championship. So that's really awesome to see. On the sadder side, I watched UCLA Beach lose to USC, which hurts.
Boo.
USC really came out and just owned it. Like,
yeah,
USC just blew us out of the water. So, congrats to them. It was really fun to watch. And also congratulations to Utah, who beat UCLA in the Pac-12 softball championships, which actually happened across the street from my apartment. And I didn't go. But Utah came back after they were down and won. So, again, super sad for UCLA.
Yeah.
Root for UCLA till the day I die. Oh, wait, Katie, I have news. And you can put this on the podcast. I don't really care. last night I was watching the game and my mom texted me, and I was feeling like just so overwhelmed this week, and it's grad week and there's all these grad parties going on. And so she texts me after they're leaving the party, and she's like, Megan, I just met your husband.
Yeah.
Excuse me? She's like, oh yeah, I just graduated from U of A Med, and he's going to UCLA for his residency. She's like, I
That's
told him all
wild.
about you, and all the other moms are trying to figure out if he's single. So stay tuned, everyone. If the moms
You
do
know,
some
moms.
matchmaking. She didn't remember what his name was though, which really wasn't great for the social media stalking that I was going to do. So only time will tell.
That's cute. It's cute that your mom was looking out for you
so
too.
Funny. I think it'd be such a good story, like at your wedding, be like, my mom texted me on a Saturday night that she met this guy for me. I don't know.
Then I talked about him on the podcast, and then he heard the podcast. Imagine.
No chance.
I know.
All right, what else? Oh, okay, this one actually hurts. Speaking of dating, the rumor has it that Shakira has moved on from PK and is dating Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One 7-time world champion.
No.
Which is so sad for all of us who had hope that Lewis Hamilton would fall in love with them. Have you followed Shakira's like PK drama?
No.
My coworker was like telling me all about it when he makes me watch soccer, and a bunch of her new music is about it, so go check it out. It's pretty entertaining, and she's just like kind of savage and calls him out in her song like by name.
No way.
It's wonderful.
I love Shakira. She's a baddie. In other news, speaking of USC as well, Bronny James, LeBron James' son, committed to USC. So I know. I don't think he was being recruited by UCLA, as far as I know, or like UCLA wasn't in his top 3. I know he was considering like Ohio State as well. So like the 2 schools who I dislike the most, he was considering.
Stop.
Yeah. No, I swear. But actually, funny story. So my brother plays in the same or played in the same league as Bronny, like their high school basketball teams. And Jack stopped playing basketball, I think, junior year, but Jack's friends on the basketball team played against Bronny. And LeBron happened to be playing at Crypto Arena that night, so he didn't show up. But, you know, he's been cited at the games with the Kardashians and, you know, the Drake and all them going to Sierra Canyon and all that. But it's funny because Bronny was actually only, like, when they did, like, the final league ratings or whatever, he got second team. He wasn't even first team in that league. It's an insane league. Really? Like, everyone's, yeah. And that's not to say he's not good because, again, like, it's a really, really talented group of schools. Like Harvard Westlake is in there, Sierra Canyon's in there, St. Francis. But yeah, like funny to see that. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking forward to watching him play and hopefully leaving after a couple years and playing with his dad. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. And Bronny will be at USC with Kobe Bryant's daughter, Natalia. So the legacy children are going to USC next year.
Again, like, how old are we? Like, the fact that these legends' kids are going to college. I wish I was back in college.
The fact that it's USC, though, is just, like, so unsurprising. I don't know.
It's not surprising at all. It is not surprising at all. But good for them.
Yeah.
4's up. 4's up, baby.
On the baseball side of things, the Oakland A's are going to demolish the Tropicana Las Vegas to build their stadium. Which I was trying to remember when we were there last, which hotel that actually is, because I've only been to Vegas once in my life.
When we went?
For everyone listening. It's the first
Yeah.
time in Vegas. Um, but supposedly they're going to demolish the hotel, build the stadium there, and then build a new hotel and casino. So the Tropicana isn't disappearing, but it's going to be renovated and rebuilt. So good for the
That's
A's.
good for the A's. That's absolutely insane to me. The fact that it would be cheaper to demolish a hotel and build a stadium where it stood than building a whole new stadium, it's cheaper.
I don't
Like
know. I don't know if it's cheaper. Is that
I
why they did
read
it?
I think so. I read that it would be like $150 million cheaper, like
Oh
from
my
500 to
gosh.
350. Yeah. I don't know if maybe there's already like existing infrastructure like plumbing and all that whatever.
Yeah.
But or the real estate, but that's insane. Like goodbye Tropicana, I guess. I mean, they probably get paid a lot of money for that to happen, but
Is the Tropicana an old hotel?
girl, I have no idea. I've been to Vegas maybe like two or three more times than you.
Well, for all you Vegas aficionados, let us know if it's a big loss that the Tropicana is no longer going to be there.
I'm sure the new one will be just as great of whatever it was. I think it is older. I think it is older, but it'll be cool to have a stadium right on the strip.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
I would go to a game.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so the next thing we want to discuss here is a topic that is really close to Megan and and I would assume a lot of people listening. Like we said earlier, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's something really important, athlete or not, to be in touch with and be aware of and have an open discussion about. So we are just really excited to talk about it today and talk about some athletes who have really made a difference in this space and have been brave enough to talk about mental health, as well as our own experiences. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so I guess first of all, I just wanted to talk about some of the people who are really kind of like trailblazing in this space. Um, and I'll just start off with Naomi Osaka, who um, has kind of been in the news recently for her pregnancy
Mm.
and standing up for her right as a woman to have a child and take a step back from the sport and come back to the sport and kind of shutting down the haters who say that, she's not going to do it. So, um, we know that she withdrew from the French Open and has refrained from speaking to the press a number of times because of mental health issues. And she's young. She's
Mm-hmm.
really young. So she's part of our generation that's talking about it. On the flip side, there's Kevin Love. And I know you kind of did some background on his organization that he started.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think Kevin Love was one of the first
Yeah.
NBA players, if not like men, to come out about mental
Yeah.
health,
That's what
which
I
is
associate him with.
right. Yeah, me too. Um, so basically, he started what's called the Kevin Love Fund, which is a mental health like charitable organization, but also like it's very proactive in providing mental health services and awareness to high school students and teachers. So I know that he's spoken in a lot of schools, and the money that's like raised and donated goes to teen mental health. And this is something that he's talked about a lot is the impact of social media on top of being a high school student. We all remember that, right? Like nothing is
Oh,
easy
yeah.
when you're in high school, right?
No,
Um,
not at all.
or junior high or whatever, that's just like a hard age. But putting social media on top of it, he has said like as a grown adult, he has struggled with that. Like
Yeah.
it's good to be connected with people, but on the opposite side of that, it's really detrimental to see all the time what people are doing. It's a highlight reel, like you can just it's really draining. And so
Right.
he advocates a lot for like balance in that space and making sure people are able to have outlets to talk about their mental health, especially young people, because I remember being in high school and mental health was kind of like not a foreign concept, but just something you don't really think about. Like, it's not, there wasn't ever a point where I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm having a bad day or I don't feel good. I haven't felt good for a while. I've never been like depression
Mm-hmm.
until you get to college or you kind of grow up and you have hindsight and you're like, wow, like I was actually really, really struggling and I just didn't necessarily have an outlet or the knowledge to address it. So really cool that Kevin Love has kind of like stepped up in the past like 4 or 5 years now and become a spokesperson on that front fearlessly. I can imagine that's not easy for him.
Right. Someone, kind of on the same page as that, who I've come across through social media, is Solomon Thomas. So
Mm-hmm.
he's a football player, he's a defensive lineman, and he's currently on the Jets. But he lost his sister Ella when she was 24 years old to
Mm.
suicide. And so he has founded an organization called the Defensive Line with his parents.
Mm.
And they go around and they talk, same to teens mostly, um, and offer resources to people who need the help. And he's doing some, amazing outreach work in addition to um, crushing in the NFL. So you can check them out on social media too if you're interested.
Another athlete who has spoken out about mental health is DeMar DeRozan. He's said many times, I have depression, I struggle with depression. Um, and he's basically framed it as like professional athletes are normal people too. And,
Yeah.
any athlete, we're normal people too. In fact, like we are just in the spotlight more often, and our job just happens to be, you know, broadcasted for everyone to see. Uh,
Yeah.
but he's not ashamed of it. Like he's willing to openly speak about it. And he started speaking to, again, high school students in San Antonio on kind of like how to handle the way that you're feeling. And like, I think he's done a really good job, not only being honest about it and straight up and being like, listen, your perception of me, like as a professional athlete, like that's one side of me. Like I am a whole
Mm-hmm.
person, but also doing something about it. So it's really, really cool to just see these athletes stepping up and not only sharing, but like making a difference.
I almost feel sometimes that it's not worse. That's not like the word that I'm looking for, but it's harder as an adult to understand, like, okay, I'm going through this period of time where like I feel awful
Mm-hmm.
and I know what I should be doing, or I'm trying all these things that I should be doing and I'm not quite feeling better. Or when you have that
Mm-hmm.
like extreme awareness of what's going on and you can't get yourself out of it, it's almost like more defeating than
Yeah.
being like, why do I feel this way? It's like, okay, well, like I know exactly why I feel this way and I know exactly what I should be doing. And then I feel like guilty that I'm not fixing it.
I've had that experience too. And I think that's just like an ongoing experience. Like
Yeah.
it's so much easier to address like why I'm like you are feeling away, why you're feeling away, but I think the piece that's missing is like everything I'm doing is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And what is there going to be something that clicks to help? Like I think that speaks to why mental health is something that is like needs to consistently like you got to check in on yourself, but it's also
Yeah.
like a phenomenon where I don't necessarily think there's a one size fits all solution, and it's something you work through consistently. Like your physical health, like you don't just
Yeah.
stop eating well and working out, like you just don't. And
Right.
same, it's the same exercise with your mental health.
And I think it's nice to see athletes. Obviously, athletes are people that we constantly follow and we feel in some ways like entitled to be a part of their life and we're rooting for them or rooting against them or whatever it may be. But to see people who you look up to like step back and say like Simone Biles when she took herself out of
Mm-hmm.
competition, like to see someone in that position say like actually, no, I'm not going to do this for my own safety. I'm not going to go to do this press. I'm not going to, like setting boundaries. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this person who has the whole world on their shoulders can do it. So, when I go to work or when I'm with my family, I can say, like, you know what, like, no, like, I'm setting this boundary now. And you have the strength to do that because, like, the people you look up to are doing it.
100%. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So I think one of the most pivotal times in people's journey of just like becoming an individual or learning to be independent is when you go to college, and you, Katie, kind of have the firsthand experience of someone who was recruited to a top tier college to play Division 1 sports. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to hear your opinion on college sports and what that environment is like, and um for any athlete in college, like what that story may be.
Yeah. Um, I'm happy to talk about that. I will say, like, my experience is different than a lot of other athletes' experiences. Like, everyone has their own. So I don't want to, like, speak out as, like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
just a singular
No.
voice. I'm just a singular voice. But yeah, so I was recruited to play volleyball at UCLA. Again, like, if you've been listening to these episodes before, I grew up with UCLA. My dad played football there. My uncle played baseball there. Like, it was kind of this, like, momentous moment where I was like, wow, like, I did it. And so recruiting, I think it's become kind of a different beast, and it's different for different sports, but I was really just trying to get my foot in the door into a big program and kind of feel that satisfaction of, okay, yeah, I did it. And UCLA worked out, and that was great. Once I got to school, and I knew it was going to be a lot of work. Like, being a college athlete is a full-time job, and I am not scared of hard work. But once I got there and you see the inner workings of it versus being on the outside as, like, a recruit, where everything is very glamorous. You're courted for a long time. It's very glamorous. And so when you get
Mhm.
into it and you're kind of getting your footing, it's a little bit of a culture shock. And there are so many factors that go into a player's experience at a certain program. That's
Yeah.
coaches, that's teammates, that's the resources available, that's training schedule, that is physical health. Like, there's an unlimited amount that can change your own experience. And um, I think towards the end, before I stepped away from the sport, my mental health was at, like, one of its all-time lows.
Yeah.
And having just, like, still trying to find myself, still trying to figure out how to be a college student at the same time as playing a sport,
And
like,
being a student.
exactly, and being a student, like, trying to make friends.
Yeah.
um it was really hard. And ultimately, like I said, I stepped away because it didn't suit me anymore, and I decided my mental health was more important.
Do you think your mental health as you were playing volleyball affected how you were playing, or?
Great question. Like, is it chicken or the egg sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's a really good question. So I was so excited to continue playing volleyball. I love volleyball. When I was younger, I actually hated it. But then I really grew to love it as I took it more seriously and kind of got a lot better at it. So taking it to the next level, like, the sport itself, I was in love with. Like, I think it's one of the, it'll have a special place in my heart forever. I was really excited. I don't think it was my mental health first. I do think if it's a binary decision, I would say like volleyball impacted my mental health versus my mental health impacting volleyball. But I think it's more of I was trying to figure out how to be in a new environment on top of the program not helping my mental health. So,
Right.
A couple of things that I can point to that might give a better like perspective on it is uh, the way that I was coached
Mm-hmm.
and the overall experience of, I don't want to say being an athlete, but being a single piece of a broader program and of a broader athletic department. And I can talk about that a little bit more, but basically I just think I wasn't treated great, and the efforts that I would make to try and improve that and showing up every day, I would go into the weight room for extra workouts like almost every day. Um, Extra trainings, like pretty much trying to just be that teammate. Didn't expect to play a lot. Didn't, like I was just happy to be there. But there's a certain respect I think that everyone deserves on a team.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a little bit hard to talk about. I never really felt like I got that respect. And I'm not playing the pity me game because it's not like everyone has a role on a team. But I remember there's two specific things I remember that really pushed me over the edge mentally. And I was like, I need to reevaluate this. The first one was when we played home games. Uh, you warm up on one side of the net, right? And this
Right.
is in front of like people that come to watch the game. Like there's a lot of people that are happy about UCLA volleyball and are excited. So it's kind of like the energy's up in the stadium and whatever. And starting off the first home game, the coach had told me I was the only one on the other side of the net shagging balls of the whole team. And everyone else got to warm up on one side of the net like a normal team would do. But I was told to go shag the balls. And I am a full-time team, like I'm a full-time player. Like this, I was recruited to play here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was humiliating. Every single home game, my family would come, my friends would come, and they would see me shag balls on the other side of the court while my team warmed up for the game. And when I addressed it, it was kind of just like, we don't have a spot for you to warm up in. Because I was a setter, and we had two setters already who were starting in the game, and the cadence of the warm up just didn't suit a third setter, so I was pushed to the other side. So that was humiliating. And then um, another time that really hit me hard was one day during practice. I was always on the scout side because, again, I wasn't a starter, but I was excited to get reps and learn and, get better and improve my skills. I had been standing out of a drill for like a bit of a time, just like waiting for people to cycle through. And I went to the bathroom and I was like, I was just like not happy. I was not having a good time. I like was kind of tearing up. I went to the bathroom, like, this sucks. I was in the bathroom for 45 minutes and I came back out and nobody knew I was gone.
Wow.
Nobody knew I was gone. Nobody said anything to me. It was like I was basically invisible. And at that point I was like, it's a top-down issue. Like the coaches should be driving the culture here, but even my teammates didn't really like offer me any support.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I talked to the coaches and I had conversations about my role, and I felt like there just wasn't a lot of transparency. My reps would be limited in practice based on like, I've never been on a team where one setter got to set 10 reps and I got to set 3 in the same drill. Like that, it didn't seem right to me. I wasn't given the same opportunities, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I was appreciated. And that's not to say that like I didn't make amazing friends on the team. Like many of my best friends are friends that I met playing UCLA volleyball, and I am so thankful that I had that experience, regardless of how it turned out. But because I learned and I grew and I realized how strong I am, and that it was hard to get over. I had a lot of like, I didn't touch a volleyball after that. I quit for like 2 years. Like I was really embarrassed. I felt like a failure. I felt like I wasn't good enough after training my entire life. I just felt really embarrassed, and it took a long time for me to like kind of, I don't want to say recover, but find my confidence again.
Mm-hmm.
Um and the flip side of that is, and sorry, this is long-winded, so feel free to cut me off whenever,
No,
but
no, keep going.
um
I don't
is
think we've
like,
ever really talked about this.
we haven't.
No, I mean, I've heard bits and pieces because, you know, whenever I would want to come home and like bitch about like whatever was going on in athletics from my end of it,
Mhm.
you kind of understood because you had been on the flip side and like you could understand what I was saying. So I think living together, like, yeah, I got bits and pieces. And I remember you talking to our really good mutual friend, basically like almost your sister, Vanessa, about it.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Um, and I remember Vanessa sharing some things about, you know, her worries for you, but I don't think I've ever heard the whole story like front to back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Especially
wow.
because from my side, like, I come in, I'm a normal student, okay? Like, I meet you in sorority rush, but you know, I've been a sports fan my entire life. Like, I meet this girl, like, she's on the volleyball team. I just think that's like the
Mhm.
coolest thing on the planet. And we're
Mhm.
going to your games, and it's like you see this person who you then, and that's not to say it's a good thing to do this because I don't think it necessarily is, but you see your peer who's a collegiate athlete and then you hold them to a different standard. Like you hold them in a different regard than, you know, Bob and Jim who are sitting next
Right.
to you in biology.
Right.
Um and I don't think that's really fair, but my view of you and the years between when we met as freshmen and when we lived together as a senior was like, this girl has got it all together. Like, this girl is
Mhm.
so cool. And so it's like, I don't think I put two and two together of you going through this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's, oh my God, you're gonna make me cry.
Don't
First of
cry.
all. Oh God. You're very sweet. That's really sweet to hear. I can tell you from my side, I never felt like, and maybe this is the difference. First of all, really thankful that we met and you've regarded me highly, whether or not it was warranted. Uh, but I never, and this is the difference, is going into that program, I never ever felt like I was given the credit or like should have had the confidence that a lot
Mm-hmm.
of other teammates had. Like I didn't feel like I was kind of like the girl. And
Yeah.
I didn't feel like people thought that I was cool, or I thought I was just this like little like girl that got recruited that nobody cared about. She didn't play. The coaches didn't really address her in practice. Like, so my confidence was really low. So it's interesting hearing that side of it, and that makes me feel really happy and special that you say that. But yeah, there was also, and this is something I really, really want to talk about because, and let me, sorry, I keep kind of going back and forth, but let me just say, like, my experience, maybe what I'm saying, like, doesn't sound like a huge deal, but there's these little like microaggressions that go into being a student athlete when you're in a dynamic with a coach who like can't even look you in the eye and tell you the truth about, where you're going to play or why you're even here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it builds up. And a lot of times that's like just kind of like pushed under the rug. And I know this is actually the experience of a lot of student athletes, including girls that I played with on the UCLA team. While I was there, while I started and then through my senior year, we had about 9 or 10 girls transfer away because the program was just really toxic. And
Mm-hmm.
even my year, and I will admit this openly, like we went to the athletic director about the culture that was being like perpetrated on the team. And
Mm-hmm.
um, there was just nothing that was really done about it. I don't know if it was internal politics, but I just want to frame it up as like, yeah, oh, you had to shag on the other side of court. Oh, no one knew you went to the bathroom. Like, I know these might sound like very like comical things that happen, but like there's so much that goes into how you're treated as a teammate. And if,
Mm-hmm.
like I never ever felt that like I was an integral part of the team. Whether or not I was playing or not, that was not important to me. What was important to me is feeling like I am contributing and they recruited me for a reason and I'm treated with respect, and I never got that. And that's ultimately why I stepped away. But the other thing I want to talk about, and this is, I think, a pretty prevalent experience that a lot of female athletes have, and male athletes actually probably, is the body image side of it. Because that, I won't say it was as big of a factor of me like quitting via the team culture and like how I was treated, but there was like an adjacent part of it where your body is your tool to play, and to compete. And having been an athlete my whole life, and you as well, like, like how important it is to take care of yourself and be able to show up and perform. And so, they take that really seriously in college.
Yeah.
To the point where you are getting your body imaged like once a week. You are going into the bod
Yeah.
pod and they tell you your fat composition, they tell you your muscle composition. You have a sheet every time you wake up in the morning and go to the weight room on how many reps, how many sets, what you need to be doing for flexibility, all this stuff. And I think that's really beneficial, but it goes way too far to the other end. And when you are consistently evaluated on how you look and how you perform physically, your worth starts bleeding into that. And it's really, really detrimental. Like I had, and this might be news to a lot of people in my family listening to this and my friends, but like I had an eating disorder probably going into college, but it was absolutely accelerated from college athletics because of the way that you are critiqued and the way that you are like not expected to perform, but the way you're expected to look.
I just wanted to touch on that from the flip side. So I did an internship with UCLA Performance Nutrition, and so I was the person who was doing those bod pods on the athletes.
Yes.
Which for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, a bod pod is basically an egg that opens and you get into it and you're supposed to be naked when you get into it. If you're a female athlete, you wear like spandex shorts and a sports bra. And then you put your hair under like a swim cap. You have to take all your jewelry out, and it works basically via air displacement. So it's, giving a pretty detailed measure of your body fat percentage and stuff like that. And for reference, the like most accurate thing you can do for measurements like that is a DEXA scan. This is not as accurate as that, but yeah, we were told, and I was told by a nutritionist who had training in eating disorder, like that was her specialty as a nutritionist, not to say anything, not to show them anything, not to let them see the computer. You couldn't answer any questions when they would ask you what was going on, like when I was looking at the screen. And it was just like a very disheartening situation. I will say super uncomfortable to be put in the position to do it with the male sports teams, which is like a whole nother story. But we did that, and then we had all of the athletes' meals in a fridge that we were supposed to give them. It's like calorie controlled, and we were making these shakes that were like really specific to help people put on weight and like trying to tell people what to eat and trying to navigate the different sports. And,
Mm.
what you're saying to a gymnast is very different than what you're saying to the female throwers on the track and field team.
Right.
And it was an extremely underfunded program. I think way more money and resources and science and knowledge needs to goes into any nutrition program at any college.
Yeah.
It was just kind of shambles, and it doesn't surprise me at all that people were getting hurt. I mean, we knew who was struggling and who wasn't. I knew who came to pick up their meals, and I knew the girls that would tell me like to throw their meals in the trash so that people didn't find out they like weren't eating them. And we ended up, and I don't know, it was just all a mess. It was all a mess.
I'm sorry to hear that, but also, again, not surprised. It's so funny. We have like the duality of perspectives here. It's you guys, I will say, Megan, like you guys did a great job, especially like people, undergrads working in the nutrition department. Like I was always really appreciative of you guys showing up with the shakes in the morning. And you were there in with us at like 5 a.m. while we were working out. Like you were, always there. So like the effort wasn't amiss, but like the messaging is really important. And I think if you don't already have a good relationship with food, or you, like, at least in my perspective, like it really, really impacted me. In fact, one nutritionist that was assigned to the volleyball team at one point, and this was like close to when I was like kind of thinking like maybe this isn't right for me. I did a bod pod. I was in like a really bad place mentally. I felt like I had no control over what I was doing with the team. I felt helpless. I felt worthless. He came to me. He's like, "Hey, we need to set up a meeting. We need to talk about your nutrition." And I was like, "Oh my God, here we go." And he basically told me like, this is you can only really be eating chicken and vegetables and like this like really obscene meal plan that I wouldn't is if you want to like go and get down to like whatever 5% body fat, that's fine. That's just not me. That's not ever going to be me. I'm healthy.
Any woman on this
or
planet.
any woman. Thank you. Or any woman. And he asked me straight up, and this was again humiliating, and I'll never forget this, is he said, "When you eat, do you eat alone? Does anyone ever watch you eat?" And I think I've mentioned that to you, Megan. Basically insinuating that I eat alone and I stuff my face and I don't have control over my food. And I looked at him, I'm like, "Are you joking?" I was like, "Sometimes I eat alone, sometimes I eat with friends. I'm not thinking about who I'm eating with and where I'm eating with." And he's like, "Just like maybe you should start eating with other people. Like I should be ashamed of the food that I'm putting in my body to give myself nutrition." And that at that point I was like, this is something I need to figure out myself. No one's going to be able to help me with this. And so I'm at a way, obviously that was 6 years ago or 5 years ago. So I'm at a way better place now. I'm happy and healthy. I have a good relationship with food, but it's one of those things.
So once you decided to leave college athletics, tell me about what the transition was like, and then what it was like to kind of like get yourself to a better place.
At first I was in an identity crisis completely, because I've always been an athlete. I've always been a star student, and half of that was taken away by my own decision. And so part of me was like, "You're being a baby. You should have just kept it going." Or you should be embarrassed. And that's just the negative self-talk. The other side of it was immense relief. I mean, when you're waking up every morning at 5 a.m. with anxiety about going to go work out or train, like it's just not worth it. And I'll say it took probably a solid year for the what is that called? Like my nerve stimulation, or like some sort of like adrenaline that I had from that consistent like pressure to like go away completely.
Mm-hmm.
I felt free of people telling me what to do, being obligated, being scared, being judged. I felt just like really a lot of relief. I could go for a run in the middle of the day if I wanted. I could go to the library. I could take a nap. Like, I felt free.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I didn't pick up a volleyball again for years. And that's because my confidence was so decimated from being a part of that team, and the coaching, basically like being told that I wasn't good enough all the time,
Mm-hmm.
that I was just scared. I felt like a failure. After a year, after I found a good routine, I started getting involved on campus and other things. I started leaning into friends who really cared about me. Like Vanessa is one of those people. She was there from the beginning. Um, and realizing I am not just a volleyball player. I am not just an athlete. I am me. I am Katie, and I am incredible, and I can do whatever I want. And that's when I started kind of taking control of what, I won't say control of my mental health, because that's always an up and down, but my own life and my own what I wanted to do. And so that involved working out when I wanted to and doing the workouts that I wanted. That involved finding a balance with food and being more gentle with myself. School is something obviously you and I both cared about a lot. So like digging into school, I joined a business club. I started on the executive board of the business club, started leaning into like what I wanted to do for a career. And I think some of it was distracting myself from the sadness that I was feeling, or like the reparations that had to happen. But a lot of it actually turned out to be really positive. And by the time COVID happened, I started being like, I think I am a lot healthier mentally, and this is something that happened to me and something I learned a lot from, but it doesn't it's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to pick up a volleyball now. I mean, it took a long time, but like we were just in
Yeah.
Palm Springs playing volleyball, and I'm like, wow, like I remember why I love this sport so much.
Yeah.
And I feel really, really, really thankful for all of the people who saw me go through that experience and never once were like, you're doing the wrong thing, or judged me, or thought that there's always people on the outside that can look in and be like, why'd she quit? She's not strong enough for it. She can't time manage. She can't, like she didn't play, so she quit. And all of those things are absolutely not true. Um,
Right.
I quit because of my mental health. And so people like Taylor Schlenner, who hopefully she listens to this, she was on the volleyball team with me. She'd work out with me, extra workouts all the time. She's still one of my best friends. Like she's been there from the beginning. And even though I was a freshman and she was a senior, she like took care of me.
Aw.
And same with Jenny Moser. Like again, oh, Jenny, like
Yeah.
amazing person.
Yeah.
Volleyball is still a part of her life, but she has been there for me and taken me for who I am, and not as an athlete and not as a volleyball player who quit. Um, and same with my family. I mean, they saw what I was going through and they validated it and came out better on the other end.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be a conversation ongoing about, I think being in a program, it's scary to say, I'm having a hard time, because when you're in it and you're competing, you don't want to be looked at as like the weak person or the weak player, because you want your
Mm-hmm.
teammates to be able to rely on you. But ultimately, like, it's if you are not mentally at your best, then you're not going to be able to be there for your team. And
Right.
it needs, like, it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any, I'm curious your experience, Megan. Like, was there ever a time playing high school sports or club sports or, literally anything where you felt like was either helping your mental health or causing you challenges, and like how did you work through that?
Um, ever since I was like a little kid, my parents would say like, "Oh, you're gonna be in school forever," like, which is turned out to be true. But my experience of sports was like, I feel like the flip of you, where you're saying like this sport was detrimental to my mental health, and I think that when I was in high school and I was playing sports, it was my mental health was, and it was anxiety. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had such crippling anxiety. I could not translate that onto the court.
Mm.
And it so my junior year, um it wasn't as big of a deal. My junior year I was coming back from an injury and just kind of like getting back into the swing of things, playing a new position. My senior year, it was like, this is our opportunity to win state. And for the first time, like, any team in Tucson had won in like 23 years. So it
Oh
was like kind
wow.
of like this big hoorah, like all the local news channels were there, like people were following us, like we were in the paper all the time, like,
Mm-hmm.
the favorites on the team were always getting talked about, like people who actually were putting in the effort weren't getting the recognition
Mm-hmm.
by, Billy Bob, who's writing the newspaper, and like that whole thing was going on. And I just like, in that period of time, like, you're applying to college, you're going on college tours, you're trying to figure out like, you know, all of those like I don't want to call them stupid because in the time they were really valid, but like, my relationship in high school, like, is that going to continue when I go to college? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if I
Mm-hmm.
pick this college over that college? Like, am I going to be okay if I move across the country? Am I not going to be okay? There was like, I mean, my high school was super, super competitive about where people went to college and all that stuff. And it was all going on at the same time that this season was happening where everyone was
Mm.
expecting us to win state. And I just remember we played this one team, and like, I was in serve receive, and like every serve I just shank, shank, shank. And like, I could not snap out of it. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like my coach was screaming at the top of her lungs, like nothing helpful.
No, no.
Nothing helpful at all. Like, it was just making me feel so much worse. It's like, look at my body, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Like, you're opening up your shoulders, you're doing this, like, tell me to do X, Y, or Z to fix it, because the way that you're addressing me right now is making the problem worse. It's, long story short, we lose the game, and we're in this huddle, and like our coach goes over to the other side, and she's talking to the coach of the other team, and basically like went to her and was like trash talking us to her.
No.
And then she came back in the huddle, and she just looked at me and like, excuse me, I'm gonna cuss, but she looked at me and she goes, "You're just such a fucking head case."
No.
And it was like that moment where, oh dang, now I'm getting
No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
that theme of everyone thinks this about you,
Yep.
and then it trickles into like other things.
I hear you.
And I just remember I'm obviously was crying like I am now, but you take those things that people say to you, and like they get integrated into your identity.
Yep. 100%.
And you're like, oh shoot, like, I a head case? Like, I think I'm like, I think I'm dope, you know?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I think
Right.
I'm successful. I think I'm smart. I think I'm good at school. I try really hard at school. And volleyball is never something that I saw myself doing long term. Like, it was something I did for fun. Like, it was for the camaraderie, you know, there's many times
Right.
where you want to quit, but you don't quit because you love the girls on your team so much. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to stick in this because, like, I just, like, love to be with these girls after school every day. And when, like, it all starts to, like, come in, it's like, to your point, like, our coach would say every summer when we would come in for preseason, like, all right, girls, like, time to get in shape. Like, you look like you've been, like, slacking off. And it's like, you've made a comment about me, you've made a comment about my identity, you've made a comment about my
Yep.
body.
Yep.
And it was like, I didn't care about volleyball. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I care, like, we won state. The news came, you know, you win all these awards, you become, you know, senior athlete of the year, like, whatever it may be. It mattered not one bit. My
Mm-hmm.
ring that I paid so much money to have, because only the football team got their rings paid for them.
Of
Like,
course.
that ring sits in a box somewhere that, like, I will never look at ever again. No one cares
Mm-hmm.
what my volleyball team did in high school. And yet, sports as, like, a concept, because I was a year-round athlete, like, whether it be volleyball or track and field or beach volleyball, like, all of that impacted me so much into what my identity is now.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, it teaches you a lot, and you're probably better for it.
Right.
But it's like, it's so triggering.
Oh, I know exactly the feeling that you're talking about. I know that feeling, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Um,
And
I Go ahead.
it's like, now when I'm at work and I'm having a panic attack or having one of those moments where I just, like, cannot control myself and I feel ridiculous, because I'm, like, in a group of people who, like, aren't going through that same struggle. And
Yep.
then, like, someone stops and is like, well, like, you're, like, a resident anxious person in the lab, or like, oh, like, you're so, you know, when, like, people start saying those things, and then you think back to that time when that's like,
Yep.
that first person
Yeah.
first said it to you, and you're like, I don't want this to be a part of my identity anymore.
Yes.
Like, I
That's
just need a
so valid.
minute. Like, I'm fine. I need a minute. I'm going to go deal with it by myself. But, like, it doesn't need to be something that becomes, like, a personality trait of mine, which
That's so
everyone
triggering.
constantly, like, points out.
That's terrible. I'm sorry.
Well,
It's
it's
not. I mean, it's
mildly
not you.
true.
Everyone has anxiety. Like, it's normal for you to break down. The amount of times I've cried because of work, like the amount of time, you like
Yeah, it's just, like, a really sensitive topic at the moment.
that's fair. No, that's so valid. And I think those comments are kind of inappropriate because you'd never really know what someone's going through. So I'm
Right.
sorry. But yeah, no, I understand completely. You just don't. Once someone has impacted you to a point where you feel like your self-worth is wrapped up in like something you're doing or something you're not doing or something you're failing at, and you react to that obviously very emotionally, or you react to it like because you care about it a lot, like that feeling sticks with you for a long time, and feeling like your identity is wrapped up in the way someone's perceiving you as like an anxious person or as not a good player or whatever it is, like that's really really hurtful. And I've been there. I know. I have plenty of stories that same thing happened to me, but
It's like the disconnect between, like, when the people around you have this concept that, like, the stakes are so high. And I know we
mhm.
talk about this at work
Mhm.
between our jobs, but, like, the stakes are so high to that person. And it's like, for me in volleyball, like, it was just a hobby, you know?
Right.
I didn't, I mean, my life wasn't going to be changed whether we won state or not. Like,
Right.
Great, cool, we won. Like, I can say that as a fun fact about me when I'm like in my circle of like meet and greet, later on.
Right.
But I was so apparent. It was so apparent to me as a senior in high school that this season and this sport was gonna have zero effect on the rest of my life. That's not to say that it wasn't gonna have effect on other people's lives who continued to play, because a bunch of those girls have continued to have wonderful careers in volleyball and are amazing players. But to me, the stakes were so low, so
Right.
unbelievably low. And to me, what mattered the most is school, because that's what I cared about. And when I was worried about school and that became a problem to everyone else, I just wanted to scream. I'm like, guys, like, why do we care so much about this? Like, why does it matter that, the Lakers or the Warriors have won? Like, you're not on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we like put so much value in this that it like,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's like ridiculous sometimes.
I think one thing that I've realized that's really been beneficial to me in just accepting whether or not it's I've just accepted it as, if you are not on the inside, if you don't have the experience, then you don't know. And there's
Yeah.
always going to be people on the outside, and I will ride this home till the day I die. On the outside, who are going to make judgments, who are going to say things, who are going to put pressure on you, who are going to give you an identity that's not yours. And that's never going to go away. But they don't matter. They're not on the inside, and it's your experience that matters. And I'm sure you have had this thought, is now when I go and let's say I see someone and my first inclination is to judge them or wonder why they made a certain decision, I sit back and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea. And quitting a college sport gave me so much more perspective on being a more accepting person, on understanding people's experiences, and that is an invaluable experience that I've had, and I wouldn't go back and change it, even though it was absolutely terrible. I made a lot of amazing friends. I got to play for an awesome, D1. I got the hype, right? But I mean, it's same as, and the gear. I got a ton of gear, which my mom wears a lot now. Actually, none of us are at UCLA anymore, so that gear is kind of just sitting around. But you never know. On the outside, people are going to say whatever they want, and as long as you can have confidence in yourself and define yourself, like, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I mean, I still struggle with that, like definitely in different ways, but no matter what world you're walking into as women, it's probably going to be a male dominant field. So you have that on your shoulders anyways.
Yeah.
But when you walk into a room and someone has made a judgment about you, and for all those who listening who know me and like know what my situation is at the moment, that like hits home. But like when you walk into a room and people have already made a judgment about you and they don't know you, that's
Mm.
still so unbelievably hard for me. And I think it's a people pleasing thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like a doubly hard to go and improve, like, okay, A, as a woman I deserve to be here, and then B, now I have to overcome this judgment that you've made upon me. And I think
100%.
that's forever going to be one of the hardest things for me to not care about.
100%. And unfortunately, I think that is something that you will always have to deal with. And I'm hoping it's in lesser degrees as you continue to be successful and people maybe take a second before they judge. But like you said, being a woman in a male dominated field, I get that experience as well. Like, you are always having to prove yourself an extra step. And I think you're doing great. But just keep the confidence that you have and remember like what you're capable of and take that with you. But
Yeah.
That's hard.
And that's also very consciously coming from a place of privilege that I will acknowledge. Like, I'm saying that in a very privileged position nonetheless.
Yeah.
And so to be aware of everyone who is going through struggles that we don't even understand is something you like absolutely cannot forget.
100%. Everyone has a different experience, and I there's billions of other experiences that I will never know. So,
let's wrap it up.
Okay.
I think we need some joy.
Yeah, we do. This has been a really good conversation. This was a good combo, though. It was fun. Yeah. Okay, so next week, Stanley Cup playoffs are continuing. I was actually at the airport yesterday watching Dallas and I think it's Seattle play each other. And I was like, oh my God.
The Kraken and the Stars.
The Kraken and the Stars. Don't have any score updates for you, but go ahead.
The Knights and the Oilers and the Kraken and the Stars are playing. And then something we don't necessarily always go over, but NCAA. Men's and women's tennis championships are ongoing, and in the months of May and June, we're seeing like a wrap up of all of the spring sports that are going on. So I know lacrosse is happening, golf. So be sure to tune into those.
Yeah, sweet. PGA Championships coming up end of May, right? Or actually like this week.
Yeah, it is. It's like the next tournament on the calendar.
You know what I turned on when I was at home was the Live Golf tournament.
Really?
That was recent.
Yes. In Tucson.
They must have been okay. So they must have been in Tucson. This one was in Nebraska or Oklahoma or something. What a hoot! They get to wear they get to wear shorts. There's music. There's teams. I'm like, what? And they have huge names. Dustin Johnson's there. Brooks Koepka. I think Phil Mickelson went. Like, dude, these people paid a lot of money to get those guys. But it's an interesting little detour from the PGA. Anyways, yeah.
The WNBA is starting their season in the next couple weeks. So they've been in preseason right now, but season openers are coming up. So please tune into women's sports.
Yep. And then the NBA conference finals are going to begin tonight.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't game 7 tonight? And then
Game 7, yes. Game 7 of the Celtics.
Game 7 already happened. Wait.
Oh, yeah, it's over now.
Today. Let me Google it.
Okay. I'm looking at Bleacher Report right now. I think it's a 76. Oh, Celtics won?
Yeah. Go Boston. Woo.
So it's going to be Lakers, Nuggets, and Celtics Heat?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Okay.
Dude, Celtics Heat takes
me back. Who do you want now? Okay.
Restart. Oh, you know. Okay.
All my teams are out, so I get to pick new ones. You have to pick the Lakers.
Okay. Okay. Second is Heat.
I'm going with Boston.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay. Cool. Controversial opinion there. We can
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Celtics, obviously, being a Lakers fan. And I like the Heat. But okay, we'll follow that.
Fan in general, but I'm going with Boston.
Okay. All right. That's good. Keep the drama up. Okay. So a lot of exciting things happening this week. This episode will be dropped later in the week. Obviously, we're recording on Sunday, so excited to see how things develop here. No, this has been a little bit of a heavier episode, but it has been awesome to talk about. And Megan, like It's very therapeutic. I actually like really enjoy talking to you about this. Because I feel like you and I are like really open about mental health, but it's cool to just like set aside a time to talk about it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, thanks everyone for listening to episode 3.
Yep. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And if you want us to talk about something or you want to talk with us about something, if you have any questions, DM us on any platform. And if you have our phone numbers, call us or text us.
We're open.
Definitely not super busy, but
yeah, we have so much time.
free time.
But the people who have listened and texted me and been supportive, we really appreciate you, and we want to see more of that because we are doing this for ourselves, but also it's cool to have an audience that is interested in what we're talking about. So
yep. And lastly, since it's Mother's Day, big shout out to Mama Cracchiolo and Mama Jacobs.
yeah, the best moms.
You.
Yes, we love you lots. Cool. All right, y'all. We'll see you in episode 4.
Bye.
Bye.